Alright, how's it going, everyone? This is Anon. None of this is financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. Alright, let me get started here. Get everything up to date. Here we go. Alright. Let me get into Discord real quick. See if there's any new questions or anything. But obviously, none of this is financial advice. This is for entertainment purposes only. All right. Oh, you know what? It hasn't announced yet. There we go. Just came up. All right. What's up? What's up, NYC Giants? Or is it just at NY Giants, right? Even though it says Tarifa. When are you going to change that, man? All right, let me get this link going real quick, and we'll put it inside the main chat room. See if we can get some people in here and hang out. What's up, Goat? How are you? Too lazy. Yeah, today was an interesting day on the market. Not a lot going on. What's up, Dirty? How are you, bud? It's kind of a weird... Yeah, today was kind of like a weird day. Because, like, we didn't really go anywhere. We're sitting here... Let me zoom in a little bit. We're sitting here right on this trend line. It broke up, and this would be what we would consider a back test. But I just saw SPY futures moving down. Microsoft is down like a full, percentage in after hours. Tarifa read my DMs. All right. So what we need to do is figure out where this is going. So it was a lower volume day. We don't... Right now, they're in the quiet period for FOMC, so like we're not getting any of the lieutenants and the Fed people speaking. And I think what's going to happen is it's going to. We also saw that there was a weird thing happening, right? The New York Stock Exchange had a bunch of tickers that were getting weird readings, and so they shut down trading on a bunch of them. And I don't know if that means that some of the people were starting to like pull out, and maybe the orders hit where they were supposed to be maybe dark pool orders, and they hit the actual exchange, and so they shut down those tickers, and then everything went back to normal. Be interesting to see because what I've been reading is there's a bunch of outflow going on right now on the SPY. Dirty's got a list of all the halts, he said. But, like, is smart money moving their money out? So, if you kind of look, we came back down, consolidated, we pushed back up, right? Push against this trend line. And, are they going to be hawkish at the meeting, and so we'll take another step down, fill this gap down here? Or is this going to break out, back test, and maybe head up to fill up this gap at the 420s? We're kind of like in no man's land right now. We're not, it's closer up to this gap up here than it is down here. But, the trend has been kind of staying strong. It's literally bounced off this each time. It broke through, gapped up that day, then gapped down a couple times. We filled all these gaps down here. But now it's sitting here at this kind of critical junction where it's like you can kind of go either way. So that's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening, you know, because this is going to dictate what the rest of the market's going to do. You know, if we have a bull rally and, you know, we come out, you know, up to 420, a lot of these stocks are going to rally. And on the other side, if this thing breaks down and then we head down here, you're looking at a lot of stocks that are going to get crushed. So, I mean, you want to post the stuff in the YouTube channel, Dirty, of the tickers? It's up to you. I'm just curious to see what happens. I saw though that Microsoft is getting beat up in after hours. I don't know if it shows it on this though. Yeah, I don't think it's showing after hours right now on this thing. Let me see. If I go to here, maybe. I go to maybe like a 5-minute view. Yeah. So it started out pumped up, right? And now it's chilling down here like a percent lower on Microsoft. I mean, this was a huge move right here. So I don't know if this is dark pool maybe, but, you know, it's definitely pushed back down. This was the earnings call right there at 4:30. And prior to that, right at 4, it was kind of getting pumped up. And then basically during the earnings call, guidance got lowered, and basically now it's down here. But that's going to drag the SPY down. Number of likes on the video equals ATER stock price on Friday. I don't. What's the number of likes right now? I don't even look at that stuff, to be honest with you. It doesn't show on my OBS, or was it OBS Studio, so I don't really look at it typically. Hold on a second. Nope, I guess 5. What's up, Jeff? How are you? So Palantir was one of them. Opened, it was 16 down, so I slightly panicked. What's up, Jeff? How are you, bud? Was that Gooch Hopa Goda? How's it going? Yeah, so if Microsoft tanks in the morning, that's going to drag the SPY down, which is kind of what we've been looking at on here, which is if the SPY gets dragged down, it's going to break down into this channel again. That means this test failed, and then this is going to probably mean there might be more downside, because at this point right now, we haven't maintained enough strength. We're still in the uptrend right now, but tomorrow is going to be a critical day, so it'd be interesting to see how that holds. You know, if we can maintain momentum here, you know, is it possible we can get back up to the 420s? Maybe. I've been hedging on this basically ever since we hit this area. I've been adding. Now, I missed this one. This sucked because I was sick this day, and I didn't join the market until like halfway through the day, and by then it had already pumped back up into like the 362 to 63, and I'm like, the stock opened at like, I mean, it gapped down. It hit, I think, a low that day of like 348 or something. It was just a crazy day because it gapped down, hit that low, and then just instantly bounced off that line and just went up 3%. So, okay, Dirty DM me the list. Let me go ahead and pull it up. We can take a look at it just to see. That is a small, let's see if we can zoom in. Okay. All right, so that's Amerisource, Virgin Corp, ABT. I think that one is... So these are all larger companies. Abbott Laboratories, they're a pretty big market cap, right? Yeah, 4.43 billion market cap. ADM. So a lot of these names, I mean, I guess AMC was also on that list. Interestingly enough, GameStop was not. Disney was on that list. So there's some big names in here. GE, Johnson Johnson. Yeah, there's some big names in this one. These are all the stocks that were messed up this morning on the New York Stock Exchange. Shopify, Sony, interesting, AT&T, Uber, Verizon, ExxonMobil. Yeah, so there's some big names in this thing that were messed up. So, could be just a glitch like they're saying, but like, is there something more nefarious going on where like maybe there were some dark pool activities that actually hit when they're not supposed to, and that caused that, weird thing? Was it a tell that, something was going on? What happens a lot of time is you'd be surprised to see something like this where literally the market is showing outflow of smart money, yet the stock prices or the ETFs sometimes go up depending on like what they're doing, because what they're doing is they're basically trading their shares in the dark pools, and then what ends up happening is these guys, the smart money, is exiting while retail is buying, because they're seeing, oh, there's a rally, this is the bottom's in, like this was the bottom's in, we're going to be going back up. And what they do is they basically sell into our buying pressure, and then they basically hammer the stock down once they load up their puts, they short, and then they just send the thing down once, because they're the ones artificially pushing the price up a lot of times, even though the money's flowing out. It's just stuff that you don't see because we don't get to see dark pools. And that's kind of BS, because that's the sort of thing where normally you see a bunch of like smart money selling, you would probably go, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing? But because they are able to trade through dark pools, they get to basically exit while nobody's looking. And then when the house gets on fire, they close the doors and just let retail burn. Like, that's typically what ends up happening. So, yeah, so many halts. Grr. They call it the open market, but there's nothing open about it. Yep, that's true, Random. I was going to say, I mean, it's one of those things where the more you kind of watch the market and how it operates, the stock market is mainly like, here's the thing. Like, if you buy and hold, like, say your average investor, right? They have a 401k that they dump, 8% in. Their company matches them maybe like 4%, and they check it every once in a while, right? They're not like trading. They're basically just each week or bi-weekly, their money gets pulled out, and then these ETFs get a hold of their money. And so what a lot of times happens is, the smart money is actually in and out at times, especially at the tops and the bottoms, and we're not seeing any of their like stuff. So like, it's and each week though, you think about it, if you dollar cost average it out, then yeah, it's fine. But when it comes down to it, these guys are the ones that are exiting when we're buying, and they're the ones selling. They're selling when we're buying, and then when we're all freaked out, everything looks like it's on fire. Then they're the ones scooping up all the shares low and then riding it high again. I mean, it's just how it works. And the more we can educate people, that's kind of like been the goal. The more we can try to figure out how to better protect our money too. So, that's why we do these things, and we kind of discuss it. So it's going to be very interesting, because we're at like a critical point right here. Like, we're going to find out real quick in the next couple of days where this goes. If it breaks down, then, this is on the table down here, this like 340s area. And I did hear some analysts now, granted, they were like perma bears, but they were thinking that the SPY will end around 320. Now, there are still more gaps down here. Like, there's some major gaps down here that still haven't been filled, and we still have this one gap here up here still. So I don't know which ones are going to get filled first. This is obviously closer than these ones down here. So could we see a false breakout? We start the new, we'd have to remove the trend line, kind of figure out where it's going. Could it go back up and then absolutely tank? I don't know. But at this point right now, I think it's respecting this trend line until we see it doesn't. So when it breaks out, back test and goes up, then we know something's going on there. My mom went to college. The good old bot days. Be nice to be on a stock finally that actually brings out the bots again, because then you know you're doing something right. All right, so let's do this. What tickers do you guys want to look at? I was looking into GNS, obviously, just because it's been interesting kind of trying to figure out what's going on with this thing. We've got a large gap here. There's still a gap down here that they're not showing on gap detector for whatever reason, but there is a gap down here. So there's two gaps here. I can even just pull it out and just do this because it's not showing up. That looks straight enough, right? Straight enough, I guess. Okay. So there's a gap down here and there's a gap here. Now, that's gonna be super interesting to see what happens with this thing, because here's what we basically learned, right? So we have a 270 million volume day, we have a 250 million volume day, followed up with an 164 million, and then today was like 84 or 82 million, right? This is on a very, very small float. So the question is, I mean, I think what's happening is they're trying to get retail to sell. They need retail to sell because this float is so small that they're going to be able to move this thing around, because at this point, I think the buying pressure stops. So they're going to be able to slide it around wherever they want. The question is, how long will they go until FTDs start piling up and stuff like that? Huh. Not sure if anyone mentioned it before, but audio is only coming out of the left side. Huh. Let me see if I can do advanced auto properties. Mic is active. Mic is active. Audio monitoring. Tracks. Okay, can you guys hear me now? No sound. Okay, is that any better? I just moved it back to normal. Can you guys hear me? Okay, we're back. So, sorry about that. I was talking to you guys going, can't anyone hear me? So, I guess that did not fix the problem when I tried to do that. I still hear a wildly annoying guy. uh, Good one. That was pretty good. Okay, so sorry for the pause, but it's one of those things where I was trying to fix the audio, but apparently I don't know how to do that. So we'll have to figure this out some other time. Okay. So yeah, I was gonna say. So I kind of wanted to just do this. I wrote this out earlier for the just for Reddit. So right now they're burning about 2.25 million a quarter, right? And that means they have right now they have roughly about 17 million on hand. I know they actually unlocked, I believe, 3.5 million notes convertible. So I don't know if that's going to affect how much cash they have, but I was going to say they've got a good amount of they've got 2 years of cash right now, which is better than a lot of companies. So now, this is a stock that only has 24.6 million shares. And what we found out was because Fish gave me this thing, this actually shows you that the CEO has paper copies and he owns 43.58% of the entire company by himself. And he's got them, all locked up. So, I mean, we're talking about essentially 9.3 million shares. So let's do some math on this real quick. So if we have let me bring the calculator over. Okay. If we have 9.3, let's do it this way. So this would be the free float. So 96352 plus 76658 plus. So right there, that's 10 million shares, 10.1 million shares. And that's basically two insiders, I believe. That's him and Sandra Mordell. Michelle Clark. I'm guessing these are all insiders, right? Because these ones are actually firms. So let's add up these ones here first. You did the math in the GNS channel? Oh, good. Let's cheat off Dirty. Told you, Dirty, if you want to come on here, you can come hang out with us here. And come talk in front of everybody. You guys made me do it back during the... All right, so here we go. All right, so did you add in... Let's see. You'll be immediately diluted 6.18 per ordinary share. That's from the IPO, right? Just reading through just to make sure we don't miss anything. So that was per the IPO. They had... You're putting out the 11... So that's, I'm guessing, all the insiders there minus... What number are you using here? 21 million? Isn't the float the 24? Or sorry, the shares outstanding 24 million? I think it is. $24.63. Let's just do this. I'll do it too, and we'll see how they match up. So all these 20Fs, I think, are insiders. So let's add the 439, or sorry, yeah, 493, 950, 263, 592, and 83016. Okay, so pretty close to 11 million, but is there any other 20Fs? Yeah, there is. Okay, there's another 20F down there. That was 6,300 and 66,000 and 6,000. Okay, so I think that's all of them, right? Then we've got a 13F from BlackRock, right? Or Jane Street, sorry. So right now, this is insiders, I think. So as long as I did that correctly, and you guys can jump on me if I didn't do it right, but you're saying there's 3 million from the extra. Are you talking about from the notes outstanding? Yeah, there's 3.5 million that just got unlocked, right? There's 3.5 million from the notes convertible. So I think that's where they got the 24. You know, there's a way of looking. Let's just do it right. All right, so GNS, go to filings. Jumps on Anon. I entered 600 instead of 6,000. Did I? Oh, you're right. I need to add an extra now. Okay. That's basically 11 million. There you go. I only did it once, right? Okay, there we go. No, I need to add 54, right? Because that's what I only added 600 plus another 54 would make the 6,000. So we're right there at like basically that's 11 million shares minus the, yeah. So let's just round it up to 11 million because that's an easier number. So 11 million locked up by insiders, right? So let's see if there's any filings in here that show that at least are more recent. I just want to see if any of these are. No, that was from September, but let's just double check. Shares outstanding. Oops. 24690 right there. All right, so let's use that. So we'll take 24690,663 and we'll minus out the 11 million. All right, that would give us then 13.7. Let's call it round it up to 7. 13.7 million shares. Yeah, it is the calculator. What program is that? Are you talking about this? This is just the SEC filings. So this particular one is just their Form 1. If we did so this is a foreign stock, so therefore they have different forms than the normal ones. But the SEC, if you go to EGR, you can look up any ticker. So unless you're talking about this one, this product right here is Dilution Tracker, and they're really good about kind of tracking the floats and tracking dilution. Oh, you meant Bloomberg? Yeah, so this one right here is a Bloomberg terminal. And our friend Fish hooked us up with this and basically allowed us to basically see ownership, which if not, you'd have to like go through all the 13Fs, which there's not many, but then you'd have to go through all the filings. So yeah, this is dilution tracker right here. And we actually have a discount code if you guys are interested in the product. I can pull up what the discount code is. But I think Dirty signed up for it, if I'm not mistaken. Where is there's? I'll put the link out if you want, and the instructions if you are interested. But yeah, there's honestly their stuff's so much. If not, you'd have to scrape through all this stuff. They basically do it for you. So, here we go. Here is, that's the website, and then you have to use the disc or the code, the Retail Collective, as the I guess they ask you where your referral is, and they will give you 10% off the normal price if you use. Oh, sorry, there's no the. I don't know if I can remove that, but let me remove that. I don't know, does that work? It's the discount code is Retail Collective. But yeah, it gives you at least another bit of, a discount there if you want to use that code. If not, you pay full price. But it's a great product. But yeah, I always tell these guys, this makes your life so much easier when you're just kind of scanning a bunch of different stocks, especially small caps that are maybe not profitable. It's a lot easier to look at this than anything. Okay, let's see. So we established there is basically a float now of about 13.6 million shares, right? Now, the free float would be probably about this, the 10, because if we add up then these guys right here, these guys right here, right, 13F, and this is just what we know, because these things they were holding at this point, and I guess as of the last filing, they did add back in September. These we don't know who's added, what's going on with it, but which one is 1,500 a month? Oh, that's a Bloomberg. Bloomberg is only showing $24.92 a month. What are you talking about? I don't see where that is. Oh, on the terminal? Yeah, I'm not sure. They said shares outstanding is 21 million on the Bloomberg. I think after those 3.5 million unlocked, that's where we got the 24 million. I don't know if they accounted for that or not on the Bloomberg. Looks like half the shares are right now out on loan. There's that shares out. No, that float is basically minus 48. I guess that's what they're saying. Isn't he like 43? So insiders basically take up 48%. Maybe that's what that's saying. Paxton, I have a Bloomberg terminal. Trust me, bro. We already have our Bloomberg guy. We got him back. All right. So that's a pretty small float, guys. I'm just saying, like, I did this thing where I basically just kind of broke it down, where if you had 50,000 retail investors across the entire world, which is honestly is plausible, we could cut that number down if you wanted to, but I'm just saying, like, it's getting national attention. it seems to me that this is one of those stocks that, like, right now everyone's kind of like talking about. So if across the entire world 50,000 people were holding on to GNS shares, that means all they would have to own is 214.6 shares to lock up that 10.3 million float. Now, if we adjusted that to say maybe 13, this number right here, if we divide that by 50K, it'd be like 273 shares a person. Now, I know a lot of people bought when it was sub 1, so there's probably a good amount of people holding on. Oh my god, I just wish I bought more when it was sub 1. I didn't want to go full on out, so I put in like, 5 or 6 grand, and it shot up, and then I was like, okay, it's going to probably fill the gap, and it never filled the gap. And I was going to buy more at 47 cents where the gap was, and it hit 50 cents, and that was, so at that point I had to average up. And so it's ruining my, 53 cent thing. But yeah, 10 days it took for INDO. It's only been 4 days so far. Yeah, at this point, the FTDs haven't, like, they're going to shake the tree as much as possible. That's what I can tell you guys. We know that they're going to shake the tree. There's 11K watching on Stock Twits by itself. Yeah. On Reddit, obviously Reddit's not as popular as Stock Twits as far as, stocks, but there's still a good amount of people there, between AMC people, between GameStop people, who have all been looking at this. Most of them, cynically, which is understandable. But, it's one of those things where if you kind of at least just think about it, you go, wait a second, like, that's not a lot of shares for each person to have to hold for this thing to lock up the entire float. And I was talking to Fish earlier, and I was like, this tiny float, he's like, well, the utilization is low according to S3, who are the, Igor or whatever his name is. Igor or whatever, the guy that gave all the information about GameStop being like 226% shorted. His firm was saying at this point, maybe they just haven't updated it, but they're not reporting anything out of the normal. But the cost to borrow is sky high now, and we can kind of look at that if you want real quick. So if we go here and take a look now at, for example, where's the short volume? So this squeeze score keeps getting raised because it started at 0 and it went to 60 something, and then it was like 70 something, and now it's 81. So this score is obviously jumped. All right, so they're saying right now the cost to borrow is now 400% cost to borrow. I'm guessing they're getting the numbers off IBKR or something like that. Shares on loan, you can see all these things just spike, right? So they're loaned out right now 5.3 million shares. We're assuming that's to short. Free float on loan. Yeah, I mean, this thing's going to get really volatile soon, because if you kind of take a look at what's going on, I mean, let's just look at the last couple of weeks. Everything just shot up, through the roof. So you're looking at a utilization basically at 100%. Cost to borrow is now over 400%. On loan shares is half the float. And then free float on loan is about 53%, what they're saying. And this stock is just kind of hanging out way above where it was. So, like, I don't know. I mean, I think when we looked at this, the live short interest, I mean, there's not a lot of shares, right? There's just not a lot of shares out there. The cost to borrow is really high, and you can see that, they're saying that there's 2.4 million or 42 million shares right now shorted, which is about 22% of the float. So that's a huge increase from where it was. So shorts are now piling in on this thing. And I think they're trying to shake out retail. That's kind of what's going on. But this squeeze score has gotten a lot higher really quickly. Like that, I mean, within like 3 days, the squeeze score went from 0 to 81. So I'm curious to see where the FTDs start piling up soon, because at this point we're not going to see it yet. But you look at the securities lending volume. Look at this. They said that they lent out in the last, what was that, last day? Today? 4.65 million shares. Probably taking those from the brokerages is my guess. Yeah, the prime brokers don't want to deliver this thing at all. You're absolutely right. Like, we've talked about this before. So your broker is not your friend. Your broker typically actually will take the other side of the trade, because who loses the most? It's retail traders, because we do everything backwards. We buy when we should be selling. We sell when we should be buying. Think about this. When the stock's running really, really hard, what are retail traders doing? They're FOMOing in, right? They're buying at $4, $5, $6, and then the stock drops down to $3, and they sell, and they lose money, and then they get to basically the prime brokerage then pockets the difference, and then goes, okay, well you paid us, these shares at 5. We never actually bought your shares, because they have T+2, and then they can choose to fail to deliver on top of that. So they're essentially at this point right now scrambling, trying to pick up shares every time they slam this thing down to get people to sell. Or sometimes when it goes up heavily, they are able to unlock some shares there because people are taking profit. So they're probably kicking this can, and they're lending out shares that are, people, buying in for the first time. They're lending their shares out immediately. And then the people who've been holding for a while, they're, probably they've lent those shares out as well. They want this thing to go down. This is going to be one of those stocks that either is going to just boom, and this thing's going to go up so high until retail actually like sells. It's super interesting. And at this point right now, like, the ATM that they thought they were going to get for the 7.5 million, like, they're apparently not planning on doing that now. So that may have trapped some shorts, who, my guess is what's happening is this. Every time this thing spikes, and we'll take off the security lending, when this thing spikes and spikes, they're shorting at the top, obviously, and then they're trying to push it down, and now they're trying to basically shake retail out. But there's not a lot of shares here. Like, that's the truth. Like, there is not a lot of shares to go around. Let's assume the float's between 10 and 13 million. I mean, we did the math on that. If 50K people across the entire world are buying and holding this stock, they only need to have like less than 300 shares apiece to lock up the entire float. Like, that's kind of insane. I just got an email from Fidelity last week asking if I would be interested in loaning out my shares. Of course you did. Would they want to give you for it? They're charging 400% cost to borrow. They probably offered you like 20%. Be interested in knowing what they offered you. Just curious, how many shares do you have? You don't have to tell us; it doesn't matter. But like, do you have a good chunk of them, or is it like they're looking for even like 100 share? I'm just curious how desperate they are. My guess would be also that what they're doing is they have what's called if you're in a cash account or a margin account, you know, that makes a difference, because if you're in a margin account, then basically they're just lending out your shares without you asking. And if you're in a cash account only, then they have to get your permission. So they'll contact you and say, "Hey, listen, are we willing to do that?" It's 400% shorts are desperate. Yeah, I mean, this float's too small. That's the problem. And so they're going to go crawling to probably the CEO and say, listen, why don't you? Keith's got 1,600 shares of GNS. There you go, Keith. Look at you. What's your average? Hopefully it's not like 5. I mean, if this thing squeezes, then it won't matter, but yeah, I mean, I'm just scared. Like, all it would require is 50K people across the entire world that have been watching this to own less than 300 shares apiece. Keith by himself has. Oh, you're talking about ATER. Okay, 350 for Keith. So you're still profitable right now. Yeah, I mean, God, if I just put in more money when it was low, I really thought it was going to fill that gap before it ran, and it didn't. Because there was a gap here at like 47 cents, and it got all the way down to 50 cents that day, and it didn't hit my order. It was a low of 51. Yeah, it was this day right here. So I was trying to buy in pre-market. I got pre-market orders filled at 7 a.m. and they were like for 53 cents. And then I set my like thing at the gap, right? Because there was a small gap right here, and it never filled. Oh yeah, it's very possible that if you look at the chart, this thing's going to go down before it goes back up. Like they're going to shake this tree as long as possible and try to get every share out if they can, because this is not a stock they want to see go parabolic, because if that happens, there's literally like share intel and all these people watching. So like this is basically like the entire world's watching this, little tiny stock, and it's trading way more volume than it should be. So it's kind of looking shady, and they're trying to get people swinging it, and. So right here, if it fills this gap right here, that is actually on the table. 224 is where the gap fill is. So if this stock gets down to 224, that's going to fill that gap, and then there's still another gap down here at like, what is that? Roughly 60 cents, something like that. 59 cents maybe. And there's a tiny gap down here as well. If I buy in, Goat says, if I buy in, it's guaranteed it will dump under $1 and stay there for a year. So far, I haven't tried buying GNS because I have a pretty good average, and it hasn't gone down to fill this gap. So I'm not going to add unless it touches this line, or if it's really breaking down, then I'll add more. But I mean, if this thing just kind of consolidates in this range, even if it's just like huge spikes here, it's going to go take another run, because when the FTDs start piling up, it's going to get kind of nuts. And I mean, you can even look at like this run right here, right? It consolidated down here. They like absolutely dumped it right here, right? And they pushed it all the way up. And so this thing had a run back in like I guess July, but nobody knew who they were back then. It wasn't until he announced the thing about naked shorts that this thing came crashing back down. Earnings happened. They pushed it all the way down. And then basically this was the spring. And then the national attention came right around this area right here when it was going in an uptrend. So, yeah, I mean, this thing, if you want to bring over did you already do the TA on it, Dirty? Let's see. Oh, yeah, if anyone's new here and wants to join, you're more than welcome to. We have a free Discord that we run. A bunch of people obviously in here are part of that Discord, so you're more than welcome to join us if you are interested. I'll go ahead and copy. Oops. That's fine. I'll just... You know what? I need to do it right. So let's do it to the new users. Invite people. Never generate link. And there we go. So there's the Discord link if you're interested in joining us. But yeah, basically we just crunch numbers together, and you know, GNS will touch 5 plus tomorrow. Look what happened when they walked it down to 394 today. Yeah, I mean it's still got some buying pressure. So I mean at this point right now, I think this thing's getting out of hand, and I'm curious to see what's going to happen with this, because this is kind of like a case study of what happens when you have a tiny float and there's way too many shares floating out there that are not supposed to be there. So this is going to get interesting. 16 lickers get Anon wet. Lick him. All right. Let's see. Okay. Oh yeah, and if you guys can hit the like button, we can see if we can get our, more people in here. All right. So, what other tickers did you guys want to cover? But yeah, I just think this is going to be an interesting ride. I do think it's going to buck around a lot, but I do think eventually what's going to happen is we're going to see just a huge, huge candle, and that's going to be breaking through obviously the 5, and then we'll retest the recent high. So, but I mean, you can see even just this run right here, they had a pretty significant day right here. They gapped up and then pushed down. So, or I guess technically they moved up and then moved down that day. But I mean, this thing hit a high of 11. So there you go. Okay, let's take a look at some of these other tickers for you guys. Okay, first one up was Staff. All right, Staffing Solutions. All right, so they've been beat down. Wow. They really got beat down, didn't they? Okay, so they're sitting down here. It looks like they kind of hit a spring here and now raising up through here. Let's take a look at... Ooh, that's a lot of red. That's a whole lot of red. Tiny float, though. Tiny float. They're out of cash. They need cash badly. So they're burning about $2 million a quarter, and they have minus cash at this point. All right, let's take a look. Do they have an offering? Yep, there it is. They need cash. Offering is in progress. So there's a deal going through. It looks like they're finishing it out right now. They filed for it on the 20th. And it's going to be warrants. So they've already got these warrants right here, right here, right here. All right, is there an ATM as well? Some notes convertible here. They already depleted that one, They don't have much left on the shelf, though. That maybe they're filing a new shelf. Yeah, this one's expired. So if they must be filing a new shelf, and they're probably looks like right here they have an S1 offering. Let's take a look and just see what it says. These guys should probably be talking to the GNS guys, because they're an easy target, and it looks like they're doing basically what happened to Ethereum and a bunch of these other stocks that were all popular back in the summer of last year. So arrest them. They have too many warrants. So they had a private placement here. Oh, look, they got to deal with mid-cap as well. It seems like these are all getting like the same sort of like the same players are always involved in these shady kind of like small cap deals, and they always end up just hammering the stocks. Let me see. Shares outstanding. Not in this. Okay. So they're doing pre-funded warrants, which are basically just they can exercise at any time. And one common warrant per one share. So they haven't filled out all the things yet. So they've got it in the works. So they're going to be raising cash right now. But that means dilution's coming. So that's going to obviously change the float. So I don't know. I mean, can it have a run? Sure. So they only, the float's tiny though. Like if but see the S1 offering, that's for 6.8 million shares. So that's going to basically like 3x your float. More than that. So it will raise them cash, but at the same time, it's going to dilute. So, which is probably why the chart looks like this. I don't know if they announced the dilution somewhere around here, and since then it kind of went down, but yeah, let's just see how their balance sheet looks. I'm guessing not very good. So, cash, yeah, they're out of cash. And they do have liabilities, 16 million in AP, 75 million. Yeah, I mean, they have some accounts receivable coming in, but like they're going to be treading water at this point right now, if not sinking. So that's interesting to see. Now, if all of a sudden retail got like interested in them, but they still have that dilution, so I don't know. I don't love that personally. That's a lot of dilution for the size it is right now. But it will keep the company around longer, but at the same time, that's not going to help for a squeeze. So there's that one. Let's take a look. So, was it Hellbiz? What that's what it's called, right? This is not good either. They're out of cash. Like they literally have no cash. They've got literally 600K, and they're burning about 12 million a quarter. So, and here's the thing, right? So all these warrants are not like anywhere near. So that's like $11. This one's $3, but like still, it's only like 1 million shares. These ones are $3. They're 500,000 shares, and this is a company that's already diluted pretty heavily. Like I believe right now, I did the math on it in this thing, and they have 214 million shares outstanding, and they need more cash, which means that this number may even grow. That's a very large float. I don't think this is going to squeeze. I think this is going to run up a bit, and then it's going to be a very, very sharp knife down because once dilution starts happening, they're just going to be able to just drop the stock. And they're raising money basically on retail's backs. So, Grom. Let's take a look at that one real quick. Grom right now has left a couple gaps up to the upside. It did jump down pretty good. Did that gap fill? It looks like maybe. Zoom in. Yeah, I guess it filled here. So there's still this gap here up at 759 to 13. So that would be the immediate kind of target, I would say. It got decent volume today. How did it do overall? 7.1 million. Let's see what the size of it is. They do have a lot of warrants out, and they looks like they have tiny bit of notes convertible and some notes preferred. So it's running low on cash. They do have an S1 offering in, which is probably this. What are they, though? So they're warrants. So warrants at 289 are registered. 3.4 million, basically like 3.5 million there. Those are pretty small. And it looks like they got another one back in December. So, yeah, I mean, this is another dilution play. Like, it's going to, go from 2 million shares outstanding, then double it. Basically, they'll have almost 7 million shares. So you went from a tiny float of like, this still could run, but they're going to start diluting out on that. So, and what was the warrant price? They might be available right now. So this thing can't. The final price was $2.89. The share price was what did it close today? 3. So they're able to dilute right now on this one. Doesn't mean it can't run a little bit, but and then they could basically run it up a bit and then start diluting, but they do need the cash as well. So, not horrible, but it's just not the same as so far. GNS has been the most interesting one I've seen so far. PRPO. I don't know that one. PRPO. They're out of cash as well, and they have an active ATM right now. So basically, they're selling shares into the market. So they're raising cash right now by diluting. So let's take a look at the chart. But I'm guessing it's because they're basically just raising money against retail. So anytime the stock goes up, it's going to get, Yeah, so right now, they've been probably pushing this price up so they can dilute. And they probably started around here-ish. Right? This one's roughly the same. No, that's the float. So let's see. Is there any news on this one? Is there any particular reason why you liked it, or was just the chart? Because the chart looks decent. They're obviously in an uptrend right now. They haven't done anything to break out to the downside. This is about the consolidation range before, so could it be in this range for a while? But they're raising money. They have an active ATM, so they may have been the ones that actually sold out up here around $1. But it's hard to tell. But they still have this ability to sell off shares right there, and it's available right now. So they've already raised a good amount of cash off that. They just haven't updated it, obviously. We won't see that until the next balance sheet. So I'll try to go fast on some of these. Verb left a gap up here at 90 to 94 cents. You also have a gap here, it looks like, at 25 cents. Looks like a pretty big gap down, been pushed back up, or is that just the volume? I can't tell. Or no, sorry, is that a gap up? No, that's a gap down. Right, a gap down here all the way down, push back up. What's going on with this one? Let's take a look. Another one out of cash. So out of cash. These ones are exercisable in 6 months, so are these. So if that was April, these are eligible now, and they're at 34 cents. These are eligible now-ish. Wait, hold on. October. Let's do the math on that. Since when it issued 10/28, we'll just say 28. That's been 9 months. So these are. No, is that right? No, that can't be right. No. Oh, you know what? I messed that up. 2 months and 3 weeks. So this one's not eligible yet. These ones are eligible, but they're not anywhere near the share price. These ones are eligible, not near the share price. These ones are eligible through Iroquois, and not a ton of shares. They do have some convertible notes that have expired, so that's not relevant anymore. Some Series A convertibles, they're depleted already. They have an ATM. So they're able to raise cash with this thing right here as well, in addition to. So there's, let's see, 152 million shares outstanding. They've got a 20 million ATM, and warrants are 37 million. So this thing's going to be a pretty high float stock pretty soon. So the chart, if I was playing this, I would be playing it for the gap fill here and maybe the gap fill here. But like, that's you're looking at like a lot of dilution on this one as well. Let me see. Someone wants to look up Jeff. Did we look this up yet? Jeff Barr. Jeff Brands. Okay. They're in a better spot. That's good. They do have some dilution here in the form of warrants at, looks like 202. These ones aren't registered yet. These came in November. But both of them are, so they'll unlock basically over 6 million shares between these two, but this one's not registered, so it doesn't matter yet. So 202, what's the ticker at? 160. Yeah, I mean, they can go and try to unlock those 202 warrants, but it looks like this thing just bounced here, back in the consolidation area. So it'd be interesting to see what happens with this thing. They're not in dire straits like the other ones that you guys have mentioned. They actually have cash, right? So they're not burning a lot of cash, and they've got plenty of money left over right now just because their cash burn isn't that high. They don't really need the money. So, I mean, it's small float. So, this one looks a little more interesting. So this one's a little safer as far as not as much dilution. There's still dilution on the table, but it's higher up. And so this thing would have room to run in comparison to all the other ones you mentioned besides GNS. All right. Someone claims to only 9K shares to short this morning. Yeah, so I mean, this one could have a bounce. It looks like it's chopping a lot though. So you'd have to be patient with this one, it looks like. All right. What do you think of most of the BBBY board RCAs being canceled and all paid in cash? It's not a good sign, is what I can tell you. I don't think that's a good sign on Bed Bath & Beyond. And I have bags that I'm holding at like $6, and I've got shares, or sorry, $1 in the money 2025 calls. But I mean, I'm just hoping that something comes out about, naked shorting or something on that stock, because they need something, because they need cash badly, and they have an ATM, but it's not ran high enough. So we'll see. They need cash super badly on that. Do we do COSM yet? I don't think so. Hold on. Cosmos Health. We covered them a couple weeks ago, I think. They were in this downtrend right here. It looks like they broke out of it. So that's a good thing. Volume picked up that day, followed up there. Let's see. Do they have some gaps to fill? I think it's two. This gap filled. This gap. Did this gap fill? Yeah, it filled there. This gap got filled here. So, yeah, I mean, if this is the new trend, we'll see. But, like, it looks like this was just basically them hammering it down. It hit this low, consolidated for a while, made it run up. Now it's getting hit back down. I'd be curious to see if it double bottoms on this one, if it breaks down. If it keeps this trend line up, then it's got some room. But let's take a look and see what kind of situation they're in. Oops. Okay. Still a small float. They have cash, which is good, right? They do have an offering right now. 12 cents. So they can dilute at any time if they want to raise money. They don't particularly need it right now. But they got warrants at 3. Those are depleted. That one doesn't matter. And they do have an ATM registered that they haven't used as well. So they've got plenty of cash. RDO through Armistice and these other ones as well. It'd be interesting. This one also looks a little bit safer than some of the other ones you guys mentioned. It's medium risk, which means it's not as good as was it Jeff? The Jeff one? And all right, hold on. I'm falling behind. You guys are throwing all these tickers out. Just catching up, sorry. So Xmas asks, when Yanov takes his annual pay in stock, does that mean Ethereum issues him stock, or does Ethereum buy stock on the open market to fulfill his salary? That's a good question. I think they actually will then, like, whatever the market price is, that's what I'm guessing. I'll see if we can dig up information, because I didn't see any details of how they were going to give him the stock. Because obviously, they could gift him the stock technically if they wanted to, just paying him through that at a set price. But at this point right now, the stock's so low, they could do it on the open market as well. I averaged down on Cosm this morning, then it broke above my average. Hopefully it does well tomorrow. Okay, so Random was saying that Jeff Brands, using AI. Fubo is highly shorted. Are they in financial trouble? Yeah, I think they are. If I remember correctly, yeah, they need cash. They already have dilution on the table. Yeah, if you look here, they already have 195 million shares outstanding, and they've got an ATM for 150 million. So they're just raising cash because they need to buy their servers and all that stuff, and they're out of cash. So it's another one where you look at it and you go, "Holy crap!" They have that much dilution still remaining. Like they've only used 10 million of it so far. So that means that as the stock price chops up and down, they're going to be diluting into it. So, not like squeezy, higher risk. I mean, they possibly can be a bigger thing down the line, but they just need cash right now. So, it's all depending on like how you feel about the stock all of a sudden doubling in size for their, not quite doubling, but like if you look here, you add 54 plus another 7. Slightly less than what they are at, but I mean, you're talking about like you're gonna have like 300 something million shares outstanding. Not is that right? No, less than that. No, it would be 300 million something shares outstanding. So you're basically like doubling, or not double, not quite doubling, but close to it. So that means that for them, that's a good amount of dilution that's coming through to raise this cash. So. Let's take a look. So Jeff. All right. I know I missed a couple when I was trying to catch up. Let's just do Troika Media. 53 million share float. Most of the dilution already happened back here. They're actually cash flow positive, which is good. Let's see. They've got some IPO warrants still at 498. Let's see what the stock's at. So they've got a bunch of gaps to fill as well. So this one actually would be interesting because you're in an uptrend. You've got some gaps to fill all the way up to 63 cents. Is there any more up here? Doesn't look like it. So, I mean, this thing gapped out a bunch probably right before earnings. Yep. And they've got earnings coming up. Now, this is all going to be dependent on when this, what this earnings shows. So if this earnings tanks, then you're going to be in this range for a while. But, if the earnings beats, you could probably fill all these gaps right here. So, I mean, 64 cents would be an interesting, like, once they get above that. But they look like they've got plenty of cash going, so doesn't look horrible, and at least they're cash flow positive. So that's not a horrible thing. So, yeah. Another one that's a little bit safer, lower risk. There's still some short interest against it, but there's some institutional ownership that's interested, it looks like. If we go here to holders, it looks like there's a couple of hedge funds, Vanguard, Geo Capital, I know them, Barclays, State Street, Virtue. So, not like a ton of shares, but like at least they're starting to buy in, it looks like. So this one could be an interesting one as well, as long as they keep up, I'd have to look a little bit more into some of their clients are Apple, CBS. So it looks like they're doing integrated brand and advertising solutions. So it's like a digital marketing company, it looks like. Brand identity and communications agency that provides branding and advertisement. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, they're cash flow positive. That's a good thing. So, and they've got some big, names that they work with. So as long as entertainment and streaming keep up, then this is probably a fine one. So this would be interesting to keep in mind as well. should probably actually keep a list of all these ones that we review. That way we can kind of keep track of them. Yeah, let's do that. Let's just throw in. And if you guys want to join us, I'll throw out the thing again. Anyone that's new or just listening in for the first time, if you're interested, we have a free Discord that we do. So I'm just throwing it out there, a copy, and place it in here. There. Okay. So I'm going to add that to the war room, and then we can look at some of these tomorrow. All right. Let's do this. All right. So Troika, right? Troika. We said Jeff Brands, right? Jeff Brands. What was the other one we thought was decent? What was it? The ones that were safer. Was it Casa? No. Was it? Brain farts. Let's see. Was it Verb? Maybe it was Verb. No, Verb was one of the ones that was out of money. And no, what was the other one that we did? Wasn't Grom, right? No. No, it definitely wasn't Elvis. Did BBAI ever release the new filing for the private placement? I don't know. We can look. I do like them long term. I do want them to fill that gap, though, so I can load the boat. So these are pipe warrants. It doesn't show the owners, though. And they're at 239, and it was about 14 million shares. So I think that's the one right there. So that must have been the private placement, right? No, it was one. They paid 180 for it. They got ripped off. So that was 117. They did that on, right? I think they got ripped off on that one. But yeah. I guess they needed some cash to get them through until the Air Force money starts trickling in, so. But yeah. Was it PRPO? No, that was another high risk one. They were out of cash. What was it? We didn't cover that many, right? I'm going to have to go back and rewatch this or something. I feel like I'm taking crazy bills. It was Cosmos? No, we did Cosmos. It was one of our invisible members. I need to go to bed. It's 11 o'clock. It's past my bedtime, guys. No, you're right. It was Cosmos. Because they had the cash. So even though it's showing medium risk, they still have enough cash. And they're not burning through it that fast. So Cosmos was the other one. They do have this private placement now, but they have this was 12 cents, so they've got like 62 million shares. I don't know. It's small float. So if there was enough interest, they will dilute. So, I mean, can it go up? Yeah, because they're going to want to raise cash. But they already have a decent amount of cash. It's just, there's a good amount of dilution on the table. So what are they going to do with all this cash? I don't know. So they've got 45 million and they have the ability to raise up another 75 or 7.5 million, and they have an ATM as well. So, like, I don't know. So they'll raise 32 million with this one, but that's the warrants, right? That's this one right here. All right, well, I'll put it on the chart. We can take a look at it, see if there's any warts on it. It's worth a shot. I'll put maybe Cosmos. All right. The other two are definitely interesting to look at. So we said GNS, Troika, and Jeff Brands were the three immediate ones that we probably want to take a look at more, and then possibly Cosmos. All right. So there's those. Are we good? I think we covered most of them, right? Was there any others that we missed? DBGI, digital brands, high risk, low float, about a year left of cash, right? Yeah, about a year left of cash. They've got an undisclosed size November filing. Interesting. $10 million. Exercise price at $5.25. DBGI. Oops, I meant to put I at the end. Okay, gaps there, large gap there. Yeah, this is gonna go at some point. It's been consolidating for a while. What's their issue? They don't have a ton of tiny float. This could move. It does have those gaps. I don't hate this one. This is a pretty large gap. I don't see any earnings though anticipated. I guess let's look in the past. I guess this was the IPO. This is the very beginning. So it's a newer stock. So let's see. Earnings there, earnings in August, earnings in November. Sometime in March, I guess, would be, so somewhere in this range. So if they could do better by then, do they have enough cash to last then? Yeah, they've got enough cash. So that could be okay. But it's still a little bit more risky than the other ones we've pointed out. This one I would classify as a high risk, high reward one, because tiny float, if it got retail's attention, then that'd be fine, but there's a good amount of dilution on the table. So Just seeing, do we miss any more? I try to get everybody's. SDIG was the last one, I think. SDIG, Stronghold Mining, medium risk. Looks like they've got a bunch of convertibles. So, running out of cash. These ones can go anytime. So they can unlock 6.3 million there. And then at 175, I didn't look at the chart, but let's take a look. SDIG. Got some, I mean, a lot of these charts look very similar, to be honest with you. Which is kind of scary that all these charts are looking like very similar. I feel like the last two look pretty similar as well. Interesting. So, how much cash do they have left? Half a year. What's their catalyst? They've got earnings coming up in the end of March. We're sitting in. I mean, they're going to need cash. They've got a high shelf, though. The question is, when are they going to start issuing out some of these? And do they run up the stock price to do it? They also have these pending effects with Armistice. I mean, this could get pushed up just on a warrant run and trying to unlock some of these like convertibles. So, I mean, it can run, is what I'll tell you. It can run, but it's going to get pushed back down. Any info on Helbiz? Yeah, so I'm not going to give you great news. I'll show you Helbiz and why I'm not super bullish on it. Okay, so right now the float is 180 million shares, right? 214 million shares outstanding. That's a high float. So that's a little bit harder to lock those things up, right? You don't have much institutional ownership. You also don't have a high amount of short interest, even though I know it's, one of these stocks is claiming naked shorting. And that's totally fine, and I don't want to crap on them because I believe that actually does exist, especially in the small cap world. Here's the biggest issue. You see this right here? They only have 600K cash right now, and they're burning through 12 million a quarter. That's not a good recipe, because at this point, that means they need to get money from somewhere. They've already diluted a huge amount, right? So, like, total shares outstanding right now, 214 million. You've got 11 million in warrants. Now, the warrants are higher up. These ones, at least. These $3 ones are there, but at the same time, just, you need cash, and you don't have anywhere to get it, which means they're probably going to have to issue out another form of dilution, right? So if they issue out more dilution, that's going to lower what your shares are worth, and they need to become compliant, so they may have to do a reverse split, because at this point right now, unless they can get some huge momentum, which it's possible, but it's just, they're out of cash and they're going to dilute on people's heads. And so I don't know if this is ever going to run the same way that something like Genius Group or some of these other ones we talked about would run. We're talking about mainly squeeze stocks. That's what people are talking about. So their cash is just, this is not a stock right now that's in a healthy place. You look at these are all red flags. The overall risk is high. Your offering ability is high. Historically, they diluted the crap out of their shareholders, and they need cash now. So that's not great. That means that they probably have to register a new shelf, and they may have to issue out more shares, which will then lower what your shares are worth, and that will drive the stock price down. So at some point, it can pop, and then they'll probably dilute down on it. So this is not the same as, for example, like the Genius Group one, or, some of the other ones we've talked about as far as squeeze goes. They have a much higher float, which are a lot harder to lock up, and even if you have FTDs and all these things piling up, you still need cash. So no matter what happens, and you're going to have cash to fight the fight. If you're going against naked shorts, you're going to need cash to pay the lawyers, to pay the, share intel people. So I don't know. It seems to me like these guys jumped on the bandwagon as far as the timing of it's really, crappy, but it wouldn't shock me if they were naked shorted, allegedly. But you see right here, the short interest against them is only 1%, right? That's not very high, and they need cash badly. So did they join the battle just so they could raise, capital? I don't know. It has to be a thought. Doesn't mean that that they are not victims, but at the same time, where they are right now is not a good place for retail to be kind of like throwing their life savings at when they need cash badly. So, anything new with the Naked Short Crusade videos going around? Yeah, I mean, I respect. I'm buying 1,000 Gina tomorrow. Do you mean Genius? GNS? Okay, Genius. Yeah. Yeah, and here's the last thing I'll say is this. So they're in a better place, right? So we know the overall risk is lower just because they do have at least 2 years of cash left. The CEO owns 48% of the company and has it in paper shares, and he said he has no interest in selling. And oops, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. GNS. I will say, if I was looking at this, I'd be looking at these areas right here. Now, this may just take off. It may take off, or it may try to fill some of this gap. We just don't know. I know the shorts are going to be trying to hammer on it, and we kind of saw that here, where if you go to the live short interest, the live short interest is spiked very hard, right? So, I mean, you basically had nothing down here. And now all of a sudden these shares have gone out. The cost to borrow is really high. We did see this. If you go to shares on loan and we just zoom in on let's take off this so we can just kind of see, and I'll take off the exchange reported ones because that doesn't matter right now. And let's even take off these two. So let's just look at utilization, which is high. The cost to borrow skyrocketed. So now we're looking at over 400% cost to borrow. Shares on loan. So this is in millions, right? So this is 5.73 million shares are right now out on loan. This is on a stock that might have 10 million shares total for the float. So that's a high amount. That's like half the float right now is out on loan. And then that does mean that they have some ammo to drop. So if this does happen, you could see a scenario where they do push this down to this gap fill and then at least try to shake the tree and shake, retail out. It's like, I'm just trying to think about it in this way. So free float on loan, you've got pretty much close to, what is that? 53% of the shares are out on loan, or the free float is out on loan. So this thing's getting really, really, really spicy, because you're going to see this thing kind of chop around violently, and then you're probably going to see this huge candle of them just trying to close out or at least cover some of the FTDs that will eventually build up. But I mean, look at the securities lending volume. You had pretty much nothing, and then in the last 5 days, the securities lending volume went up basically they're blending out half the float. This has gotten out of hand really quickly, and you let this thing go 15, 20 days, as long as retail doesn't freak out and sell, this thing could fly. Because, I mean, another low float stock that did this was Support, which had a really small amount. Now, granted, they had options. If options get introduced to this would change the dynamic. because either they're going to load up the options chains or they're going to hide the short interest in the options chains and then hope this all breezes over. But that's risky because the lawyers are literally looking for that at this point. So I don't know what they're going to do. I think at some point this thing's just going to go parabolic, and at that point it's just going to be insane because they're going to be trying to sell and there'll be huge run. It's kind of like when I'm not going to go to that comparison, but it will be a very, very strong run where you just see the stock price going up, and then at some point retail will start just bailing out because they're making so much money they don't know what to do with. So we'll see. And the other thing that could slow it down is also they could technically, 11 was one of the fib lines. So, I mean, on GNS, like one of the fib lines was, I think $11 a share. And if you look up here, this was another like 1161-ish, or maybe it was 83. Let's go conservative. Somewhere around this line right here would be an interesting level for this particular. Like if we were to just draw this out, that's not right. I need to lower the left side, but somewhere around this, and I need to raise this part up so it's straighter. But somewhere around this would be an interesting level. If it goes parabolic and gets up to like 11, that's, making a full run. So, yeah, I mean, if you think about this, if someone like Keith had, what's going on? It's in the GNS channel in the Discord. What is? Oh, the fib chart is. Dirty said we can bring it up. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so 851 is a level right there. And I think 11 was another one, right? Wasn't there one that was like 11? But these right now, so these numbers right here, the 851, the 564, the 538, the 441, the 345, and the 224. And this is actually where the gap is right now. So I could see a retracement down here and then another run at some point, but we don't know for a fact it's going to retrace. It depends on what happens. If retail FOMO's in on this thing can go parabolic. So who knows? Hold on a second. I need to check something real quick. All right, give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back now. Sorry about that. I had to check on stuff. No. Yeah, sorry. Okay, let's see. We actually did PRPO earlier, Alexander. Let's see. So yeah, let's check. Let's just figure out. Yeah, so just this was GNS's fib lines. We've already hit these ones up here, and you can see the next thing is there going to be a retracement? But I mean, this could technically get back up to this level or even higher to the 11 level. So, all right, let's close some of these out. Am I not talking again? Yeah, sorry, I had to leave for a second. You guys can hear me, right? Just making sure. Sorry, I had to run out. We'll go over those later. Yeah, the last thing I'll do is just pull up BBBY because, I mean, you're talking about. I mean, they did a share buyback here, and it's like backfired because they've now had to like dilute heavily. I mean, this if they issued out an ATM and took advantage of this when it was these levels, it would have been nice. I mean, the ATM could raise enough money to kind of like at least get them through the hump, but I mean, it's a rough area because they're out of cash, so they're literally having to like dilute as we speak, right? So we have this like October ATM registered. I read they raised 75 million off of it, or maybe it was this one. Yeah, someone said that they raised 75 million off the shelf. So that would at least keep them, at least the doors and lights on. They need to basically restock their inventory, but they're just there was a lot of mismanagement. There was a lot of like issues, and they need cash badly. So, like they're gonna have to dilute through this ATM right now. It's 43 million's left on the ATM. If the share price can go up, then they'll be okay. But it's like it's in a rough space right now, and they're burning so much cash. Like it's kind of gross how much cash they're burning. So thanks, Paxton. Yeah, if you can hit the like, that'd be great. Yeah, so I'm not like I'm holding bags on BBBY. I'm hoping it will pop up again at some point and make a run, but like that's not one I think I'm going to hold long term. I was mainly playing it for the squeeze back during Cohen. I was able to get my average down to 6, but I mean it's in a rough space. He did have that nice run though when Cohen was there. Just when he sold, it just completely turned. If they spun off Baby, they would have enough cash to kind of do things, but they also would be selling off their most valuable asset, which means that the rest of what they do is trash compared to Baby took a hit, but still it's still worth more than probably the entire company right now. So that's one aspect of, okay, if you wanted to, you could sell that and raise cash. And then that way your bankruptcy is not like firmly on the table, but they're just, yeah. Trust me, when Cohen sold, I was like, that doesn't sound like him. Maybe there's something going on. But, I mean, because his track record didn't really show him pumping and dumping. But my guess is he may have gone to the board, and the board was not willing to change. And he just said, you know what? Let's see how you guys do without me. Because I think they were expecting to be, just, well, Cohen's part of us, so he's part of our board, but he's young, so we're not going to listen to him. And then he just said, all right, well, if you guys don't want my help, then that's fine. I'll sell all my shares and see how you guys do. And literally their stock, like if they had raised an ATM back then, they would have been selling it like, what was it? What was the stock price at one point? Like, I mean, it went up hugely. So Cohen made a ton, but I mean, it went up to like $30 a share, right? From down here at like 4 all the way up to like 30. If they had been issuing an ATM during like this time, and they would have been selling all throughout here, they would have been raising tons and tons and tons of cash. But like, they didn't do that. And they registered an ATM back here, and then they diluted during this portion. We've had a little run consolidation, but like, I just want, if they could just even get back up to this $11 thing, I'd be happy. Because I mean, I'm sitting here at like a $6 average. So for me, all I needed to do is basically get back up to like here, and then I'll be fine. Yeah, he was the first one out, and I don't know the situation. It just sounds like, and when he gave the interview, I did listen to it. He basically said that, he looked at things and something changed in how they were doing things, and then he didn't like it, and so he said, "So I exited." So to me, that sounds like they must have had some sort of disagreement on the board on how things should, work, and maybe they didn't listen to him, and so he just said, "Yeah, there you go." Yeah, I mean, it hit a high that day of like 29 something, almost $30 a share. So, but yeah, I was gonna say, unfortunately, that was not a good trade for a lot of us in here, because a lot of us were very much in going, this is going to be the next, big squeeze thing. And then, with Cohen there was a bunch of options, bunch of shares locked up, and then he sold, and that totally changed everything. So it's Cohen said bye bye, not bye bye. Clever, random, clever. It was how the news was released that pissed me off. Oh yeah, I mean, like, they definitely whooped it up that Cohen's out and that you all are screwed, and so yeah, I mean, I was up significantly as well, so that was not a good day. Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing about being working and not being able to like trade every second. Like, I usually have it up in the background, but there are times where I have to go to the bank and the post office for my work, and run out. So I don't get to trade 24/7. Not behind the computer all day doing this. I have to do my job sometimes too. So there are times where it's slower, like in the winter. It's slower for me because I'm not in the field. So, but yeah, it dropped fast. I mean, that from that there to there, and that gap down that morning, another big day, gap down, and so within 2 days, you went from like $30 a share down to like 15. Actually, even more than that. It was more like, yeah, it was about 15. So it halved itself in 2 days. So that was a huge drawdown. Yeah, I'm still holding, unfortunately, but I was gonna say I'm just waiting for an opportunity if we do get one more up, because I thought maybe it could fill this gap when it ran back up this way, but I mean, it does not look like I'm gonna get that chance there, and it looks like there's a small gap here, just eyeing it. So we may have more consolidation before that happens. Yeah, trying to work while keeping an eye on stocks is tough. Yeah, it sucks. That's why sometimes you have to set up stop losses, and it just All right. Well, I am gonna head off, guys. I think we answered most of the questions. If I'll leave you with this. If you guys want, if anyone's new, or we're trying to get more people in the Discord to hang out with us and talk to us. I'm constantly, whenever I see someone smart on Reddit, I try to see if they will come and join us. So far, I haven't seen one of the guys I invited recently, but I'm hoping he does. He was actually a Marine. I think he got his bachelor's in mathematics and electrical engineering, but he also was really into stocks. So I wrote him and I said, listen, I'd love to have you join us, and uh, let's see if he does come in at some point, and maybe he can give his opinions as well. If you guys see anyone else that looks like they kind of know what they're doing, please invite them, and I'll put the link in here. But yeah, you guys have a great night. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the Discord, and I will. Am I smart enough for this group? Yeah, you're smart enough. DZ has been working and doing conferences, so he has not been as active on the Discord, but I'm sure we can get him back at some point when things calm down a little bit for him. But apparently, I guess the winters with all these storms and everything, because remember, he's a meteorologist by trade. I think he's got a PhD in meteorology, so he's been busy with work. So we're hoping to get him back on here, and maybe we'll do a stream or two with him on and see what he thinks of the markets, because I'm sure he keeps up. He just probably isn't like actively sitting there on Discord. And then you guys all ran him out of the ATER room after the gap down on dilution, which was not his fault. The TA was solid that he was putting out. It's just we can't, when Ethereum, diluted, all of the TA went out the window. That was building up to that. So, all right, town halls would be cool. Yeah, we can do those again. And at some point, if we ever hit a big one, maybe we'll do a party and we'll all get together at some point. But for right now, I will leave you guys with this. Tomorrow will be interesting on the SPY, and we'll see where everything goes. And hopefully GNS just keeps skyrocketing up. But I think there might be some pullback. But we've at least covered all the bases on that, and I'll write up a DD and do a video DD probably tomorrow if I'm able to sneak away for like an hour. So you guys have a great night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.